So, today we're going to dive into what is truly a massive turning point in the book of Ezekiel. I mean, for 32 chapters straight, the story has been this agonizing countdown to doom. But right here in chapter 33, everything, and I mean everything, is about to change. Three little words. For Ezekiel and all the other exiles sitting in Babylon, this was it. This was the news they had been dreading for years. It was confirmation that the absolute worst had finally happened. And yet, somehow, this moment of total loss was also the beginning of a brand new hope. So how can that be? Let's dig in. All right, so to really get why this news was such a game changer, we have to understand what the world looked like before it arrived. For the entire first half of the book, Ezekiel's message was just relentlessly grim. It was defined by one thing and one thing only: judgment. I want you to just imagine this for a second. You're in exile, you're basically a prisoner of war, and the only message you ever hear from God's prophet is that your home, your holy city of Jerusalem, is going to be completely wiped off the map. This wasn't, a warning of something that might happen. It was a promise of something that absolutely would happen. And look, this wasn't just any old judgment. The way to think about it is judgment with a capital J. It was absolute, it was final for the entire nation. It's like a doctor telling you that you have a terminal, incurable illness. There's no treatment, there's no hope for recovery. The end is coming, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. And then it happens. The end that was prophesied finally arrives. And this brings us right to the pivot point, where a single piece of news completely transforms the entire story. A single fugitive, a survivor, manages to make the long, brutal journey from the rubble of Jerusalem all the way to the exile camp in Babylon. And he brings the message: the city has fallen. Just like that, the waiting is over. The judgment has been carried out. Now, what's so wild about this is the timeline. The city was destroyed, but the news took a year, maybe even 2 years to actually get to them. Can you imagine the tension of that wait? This isn't an instant text alert. This was a slow, agonizing confirmation of their deepest fear. For years, God had symbolically made Ezekiel unable to speak, except when he was delivering these messages of judgment. But on the very morning the survivor shows up, his mouth is opened. He can speak freely again. And this is a huge symbol that his whole mission has changed. The era of doom is officially over. An era of life is about to begin. Okay, so Jerusalem has fallen. Does that mean judgment is just finished? Well, not exactly. Instead, the very nature of judgment is about to change in a really fundamental way. You see, the prophet now makes a distinction between two kinds of judgment. That old judgment with a capital J, that was for the nation as a whole, and it was totally inevitable. But now there's a new kind, judgment with a small j. And this one is focused on the individual, and this is the most important part: it is avoidable. And this medical analogy is just a perfect way to explain the difference. The old judgment was like getting that terminal diagnosis. It's final. But this new judgment, it's more like a doctor warning you about an unhealthy lifestyle. It's not a death sentence, it's a wake-up call. It's a chance to change your ways, eat better, exercise, and you can actually avoid the bad outcome. The choice is now yours. So this is the whole point. God's message flips from "you are going to die" to "why will you die?" He's holding out the chance to live, even in the middle of exile. But this isn't some kind of cheap grace. It demands a response. It requires a real commitment to a spiritually healthy lifestyle. The path to life is open, but you have to actually choose to walk it. So how does this new dynamic of shared responsibility actually work? Well, Ezekiel gives us this really powerful and vivid metaphor: the watchman on the wall. Picture a city, right? And they post a watchman, a sentinel, on the walls. His job is simple. If you see the enemy army coming, you blow the trumpet. Now, if he sounds the alarm and the people down below just ignore it, well, their blood is on their own hands. But if he sees the enemy and stays quiet, then he's responsible for every single death. This line right here just underscores the incredible weight of that responsibility. The stakes are, quite literally, life and death. For the sentinel to stay silent is a fatal failure, and God holds him personally accountable for every single life lost because of it. And of course, you've probably guessed it, Ezekiel is this sentinel. His new mission isn't to announce some inescapable doom anymore.
It's to sound the alarm, to warn the people about the dangers of their spiritual lifestyle, so that they have the chance to turn back and choose life.
Okay, so the message is now hopeful. The warning system is crystal clear. The responsibility is shared. So the big question is, how did the people respond to all this? Did it work? Did they hear the sentinel's trumpet blaring and run for safety? Or did they do something else entirely? The answer is just, it's fascinating and so deeply human. The people started flocking to hear Ezekiel. He was suddenly super popular. But here's the thing. They didn't see him as a watchman with an urgent life or death warning. No, they saw him as an entertainer, a pop star with a beautiful voice, singing these lovely songs about a bright future. And this slide right here gets to the absolute heart of the problem. It's a classic case of selective hearing. You can see they absolutely loved what they heard, all the promises of new life, a hopeful future, restoration, but they completely ignored what they were being asked to do. The warnings, the call for personal responsibility, the need for real change. They heard the promises, but just tuned out the price tag. In the end, it all comes right back to that parable of the watchman. The people heard the sound of the trumpet. They even thought the music was beautiful. But they didn't take it as a warning. They just stayed out in the fields, totally vulnerable to the coming attack because they preferred the song over the signal. And that leaves us with a really challenging question, doesn't it? Because Ezekiel's audience wasn't unique. It's a timeless human thing to love the promise of a good outcome without wanting to do any of the hard work to get there. It makes you wonder, in our own lives, when do we hear a clear warning but choose to just enjoy the beautiful music instead?